that you do leave a tip or donation at the link gsmc.cloud. It is a huge support to the network, me and my fellow podcasters, so it is highly appreciated. Now, moving on to our second segment of the show, we're going to cover the Oilers and Stars Game 4 betting preview. Last time we saw these two teams, it looked like the Oilers at home could pull out a huge win to put them up, but the Stars, with a certain player coming back for them, proved too much for the Edmonton Oilers at home, and they come out winning 5-3, a player that we're going to highlight scoring a hat trick on the road. But looking at this game, Dallas plus 110 for the money line tonight. Edmonton minus 130. The total over under 5.5. I think that's a very fair assessment. Edmonton at home should still be favored, but we're seeing that the money line is kind of decreasing and the points total is staying where it relatively is. But I just want to talk about these two teams fantasy-wise because of the intrigue surrounding both of them. On the Edmonton Oilers side, we can talk about the trio of Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Evan Bouchard. Obviously, they're the top 3 point scorers for Edmonton, not only for the team, but in the playoffs as well. But I want to highlight 2 other guys for Edmonton because in the grand scheme of things, you can't just rely on those 3 to get you points. You need the team against a team like the Dallas Stars. First up, I'm going to highlight Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman is a first-line player. He has 16 points in this postseason, but only 3 this series. He did have a goal and an assist last game, but I just think if you're a first-line player who is added to this team to complement Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's offensive prowess, you need to produce in the playoffs. Zach Hyman just hasn't been able to produce in the series. Maybe it's just because of the fact that the Stars have been limiting Edmonton unlike any team in this postseason so far, but he just needs to get going. Another guy on that first line, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who has been around with Draisaitl and McDavid for just as long. He needs to step his game up. Both of these guys are valued at a much lower price, so if you're looking for a much cheaper option for your fantasy hockey team tonight, do look at them. They are valued at $7.3K and $5.1K respectively on DraftKings, and Zach Hyman is projected to have 12.5 fantasy points, while Nugent-Hopkins is projected to have 10.7 fantasy points. But the reason I want to highlight them is the reality of the situation is Edmonton needs those guys to produce. It just cannot rely on 3 players to be the guys who score the points for them. The Dallas Stars are not the Vancouver Canucks where you can limit them to only 15 to 20 shots per game and you're fine, and Stuart Skinner doesn't have to do much to help you win. Obviously, Stuart Skinner being the weak link of the Edmonton Oilers. But for the Stars side, they had a major boost last game, and it's all because of the return of their star center, Roope Hintz. Obviously, he suffered an upper body injury in Game 4 against Colorado last series, but in his triumphant return, he had 2 assists to a guy who I also want to highlight, Jason Robertson. Both of these guys are valued at 5.2K and 5.9K respectively on DraftKings, so do get them while the going's good. I think that their prices will skyrocket if they play as well as they did last game tonight as well. Just want to highlight both of these players. Obviously, Roope Hintz is a huge difference maker for the Dallas Stars. He adds so much offensive production. He complements Jason Robertson, a young guy in his 5th year, who's just been kind of a little bit unsettled in this series, but obviously getting a hat trick mainly due to the fact that Roope Hintz has been helping him out. And that's the story of this series. Can the Dallas Stars implement all these different players, both young and experienced, to overwhelm the Edmonton Oilers, who, while they definitely have players who can score in bunches, are not as deep as this Dallas team? Obviously, now that Roope Hintz is back from injury and looks fully fit, no less, I think that Dallas now has a certain advantage that Edmonton simply cannot overcome. I think that Zach Hyman and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins can produce, but against that first line that includes both Robertson and Hintz for the Dallas Stars, you have this group of players who are so well connected with each other. They marry so well with each other, and they just understand each other overwhelmingly. And I think that advantage is something that Edmonton has to seek out and try and find a way to adapt to, because right now the Stars are overwhelmingly better than the Edmonton Stars in this series. And looking at, on the defensive side of things, the Stars obviously have the more trustworthy players there as well. And Edmonton has its goaltending issues and a little bit of special teams issues in this series, at the very least, that they just haven't had in other series. Like I said before, the Dallas Stars are a different animal than the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks were in the postseason for the first time in forever, since 2011. The Dallas Stars have been here before. They want the Stanley Cup. They were favorites coming into the postseason, and I don't see anything less. That being said, I am picking Dallas to win tonight's game. As an Oilers fan, it does sadden me to say that, but Dallas right now is just so well constructed, and with the return of Roope Hintz, look out for him fantasy-wise, because he's cheap now. I don't think he will be cheap by tomorrow. I think that ultimately the Stars just have more depth, more production, more reliable players than Edmonton right now. Edmonton has too many question marks. They have been playing well this postseason, but it's mainly due to the fact that they have not faced as good competition as the Dallas Stars thus far. Obviously, Stuart Skinner, he has his problems. The Edmonton's defense had its problems last game where they had a 2-goal lead. They could not maintain it. So ultimately, Dallas is looking to... They already have stolen home ice advantage back from Edmonton. They are just looking to dominate this series. And ultimately, I think tonight is the night where they take over this series. Look for Roope Hintz to be a factor. I am taking the Dallas money line. I am taking the over in terms of goals. I still think Edmonton can produce goals. I don't know whether or not it'll come from Hyman or Nugent Hopkins. I do think that they need to produce in order for Edmonton to put up points to equal the Stars, if not better them. But I am going to take the over in terms of total points for tonight's game. I think it's going to be a highly entertaining game. But that will just about do it for the second segment of the show. Coming up, we switch from PPR to IDP. We are going to be taking a look at two position groups, mainly the D linemen and the linebackers, for the upcoming fantasy football season for the individual defensive player leagues. This should be a very exciting segment. I'm excited. Y'all should be excited. We will be right back.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC